This is the last subtopic for this topic, solving equations. You need to have some basic tools for you to be able to understand how to solve equation. First of all, you need to know the concept of reciprocal or inverse of a number. Inverse of number. We have two basic operations which are, you need to know what reciprocal and inverse of a number is. You know, we have two basic operations in mathematics. The basic operations are addition and multiplication. Okay. Now, in addition, let's take for example addition. We need to know what the inverse of addition. Addition is the additive inverse. We did that in our last topic. Additive inverse, or if you have a number like 5, the additive inverse of 5 is another number such that when you add them together you get 0. So in that case, which number or what number do you add to 5 to get 0? For you to know that number, you may wish to make use of what we just called balancing of equation. In equation, you may wish to say, okay, I don't know what the number is. Let me call it x. If that is s, I have 5 plus x equal to 0. So what do I do to balance this? I have to subtract 5 here. For the fact that I've done that here, I will do it here, so that I will have 5 minus 5, 0. I bring down my x. I have 0 minus 5 to be minus 5. Therefore, the number in question is what? Minus 5. In such a way that if we want to now talk about the additive inverse of 5, the additive inverse of 5 is minus 5. The additive inverse of a number is another number such that when you add both of them, you get 0. And let us recall our memory on multiplicative inverse. Multiplicative inverse of a number is another number such that when you multiply them together, you will have 1. For example, the multiplicative, if we have this number 2, the multiplicative inverse of 2 is 1 over 2, because 2 times 1 over 2 will give us 1. The multiplicative inverse of 6 is 1 over 6, because 6 times 1 over 6 will give us 1. The multiplicative inverse of minus 5 is the same thing as minus 1 over 5, because minus 5 times minus 1 over 5 will give us 1. Therefore, from what we have done so far, whole numbers can be made fractions by putting them over 1. So all whole numbers are rational number. You can express them as ratio. Notice from the first one, 2 is the same thing as 2 divided by 1, which is 2. And its multiplicative inverse is gotten by interchanging the values. Numerator becomes the denominator. This denominator is the numerator here, and this numerator becomes the denominator here. Likewise, what we have here, this and this. Likewise, what we have here, this and this. Likewise, what we have here, for example, 2 over 3, the multiplicative inverse will be 3 over 2. 5 over 6, its multiplicative inverse will be 6 over 5. Minus 2 over 3, its multiplicative inverse will be minus 3 over 2. So in each case, we will have 1. Try that out yourself. Another tool we need in solving equation is we need to know what is called the coefficient of the unknown, or the scalar of the unknown, or the constant multiplier of the unknown. Like in our previous case where we had something like 2x is equal to 4, this young man 2, which is holding the unknown, this is the unknown, but the number that is multiplying, that is joined to that unknown, is either called the coefficient, or you call it the scalar multiplier, or the constant multiplier, So you need to know the constant multiplier of that unknown, or the coefficient of that unknown, so that it is that coefficient of that unknown that you will make use of in dividing both sides. Remember, we say what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So method 1, I would like to apply method 1 with this coefficient method, so that dividing by the coefficient, so that you understand it. Method 1, we have 2x is equal to 4. For us to find what x really is, remember we said the essence of every equation is to find the value of the unknown. So what do? We divide by 2, because 2 is what is holding x. Because you did it at the left hand side, you should also do it at the right hand side. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So that 2 will cancel these 2, and 2 will cancel itself and reduce 4 to 2, so that we have x is equal to 2. That is all. Another example is, let's say minus 3x, example 2 now, minus 3x is equal to 6. What are we going to divide both sides with for us to find what x is? We are dividing both sides with minus 3, because it is minus 3 that is holding x. So we divide both sides by minus 3. So negative 3 cancels negative 3 to become 1. X stands alone. X standing alone means 1x, and 1x is 1. And we have 3 cancelling 6 to give us 2 over minus 1. Then in the case where minus is at the denominator, you bring it up to the numerator. So we have s equal to minus 2 over 1, and of course it is s equal to minus 2. Method 2 is multiplication by the inverse, or using the inverse of the coefficient. The inverse of the coefficient is just like what we did before. When we solved for 2x equal to 4, we solved for x in 2x equal to 4. We say divide by 2, the coefficient of x. But let us not just use that method. Let's use multiply by the inverse of the coefficient. What is the coefficient of the unknown here? The coefficient is 2. Remember, coefficient here is 2. So we are multiplying by the inverse of the coefficient. If the coefficient is equal to 2, what is the inverse of 2? What is the inverse of 2? Multiplicative inverse of 2, because we are multiplying, will give you 1 over 2. Remember, so we need to multiply both sides by 1 over 2. So when we have 2s equal to 4, you can write, for you to make your work very beautiful, you can write multiply both sides by 1 over 2. When we do that, we will have 1 over 2 multiplying 2x, and we will equal to, at the right side, we will have 1 over 2 multiplying 4. Remember that 4 means 4 over 1, just like 2x means 2x over 1. So by what we did in fraction numbers, so with numerator we multiply numerator, 1 multiplies 2x to give us 2x. Denominator we multiply denominator, 2 multiply 1 to give us 2, equal to the same thing here. 1 multiply 4 will give us 4, and 2 multiply 1 will give us 2. Can you see that I can comfortably use these two to cancel these two? To have x, use these two to reduce this 4 to 2. That is by 4 divided by 2, or divided into 2, we will have 2. So we have finished solving. Example 2 here. Let us try out 2x plus 3 equal to 5x plus 6. I hope you know we can still rewrite this as 5x plus 6 equal to 2x plus 3. So how do we strike a balance first? Remember, what we need to do first is to strike a balance. How do we strike a balance? For me, I will want all the x's to be at the left hand side and the other numbers to be at the right hand side. So what do? I have to find a way to eliminate this young man. How do I eliminate this young man from the left hand side? I have to subtract 6 for me to eliminate it. And because I am subtracting 6 from it, I will also go to the right hand side and subtract 6. So for me to say subtract 6 in order to eliminate this 6, I will go to the right hand side to say subtract 6 too. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So we will have 5x here, and 6 minus 6 cancels out to 0. Then from the left hand side I will have 2x. 3 minus 6, remember that plus 3 minus 6 is minus 3. If you don't know, go back to your number line or use the concept of I have 3 oranges, I am owing somebody 6 oranges, and you must pay when you have. You give the person the one you have, you are still owing the person 3 oranges. Now, okay, the next step is how do we remove these 2x from the left hand side? Because we say we want ordinary number to be on the left hand side. So remember is 2x. I will now say 2x minus 3. For me to remove 2x, I will say remove 2x. I will remove 2x. For the fact that I've removed it from the right hand side, I will come to the left hand side to also say remove 2x. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So I have 5x. When I remove 2x, I have 3x. So 2x remove 2x goes off. I have minus 3 remaining at the right hand side. Now you can either use method 1 to say divide both sides by the coefficient of x. Remember what we said. At this point we now have a balance, but now the aim is to find what x is. So for us to find what x is, we can say divide both sides by that number that is multiplying s, otherwise called the coefficient of s, or the scalar multiplication of x, or the constant multiplier of x. So we divide both sides by that 3. Divide here also by 3. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So 3 cancels 3. I will have x remaining there. Of course, 3 cancels itself, cancels 3 to give you 1. And we have minus there, so it will be negative 1. So this is our final answer. Much, dear students, we are through for this topic. You will be having a compendium of about 20 questions in a simplification of equation and how to solve equation. We expect you to go through what we have now and do your assignment and submit on time for marking. Thank you.